Hello, Wellness Warriors. Looking forward to our chat today. Nobody on the stream yet, so I'm just going to get started because I have so much to talk to you about this morning. The topic is weight loss. Yo-yo dieting means that you actually know how to lose weight. Losing weight isn't the problem then, right? Because if I've been yo-yo dieting up and down and I've lost weight, the problem is that I keep putting the weight back on. Most people put it back on, right? The statistics is like over 80%. How long did it take you, Wellness Warrior, to put your weight back on? For myself, I want to share something with you. As you can see here, the first time that I made any real attempt to lose weight back in 2011, I lost 49 pounds by October. So between February and October, 49 pounds. Not bad. And then about a year later, I had put back on 11 pounds. Again, not bad, but not what I wanted. So, of course, I turn on, I lose it in May 2012, and I put it back on plus, so with extra by August 2012. Forced myself to lose 4 more pounds, put back on 10, April 2013. Forced myself to lose 4 more pounds, put back on 18 by June 2014. Again, push myself to lose 10 more pounds. And of course, I gained 18 pounds back by May 2015. You're seeing the pattern, right? By August 15th, I lost 6 more pounds. And then by February 2017, I was back where I had started in 2018. So as we can see, the math is showing that I'm never losing back what I need to lose to keep myself at the goal weight. And then by January 2018, I was 15 pounds heavier than when I started the whole weight loss process. It almost makes us feel like if you're just a little bit overweight. Well, I was 50 pounds overweight. That's not a little bit, but you should probably just figure out how to keep yourself wherever the heck you are and just not gain anymore. But could that be a good plan? And I think for people who are 10, 15 pounds overweight, that could actually be a good plan. But why would you not want to be? Are we not able to be at our correct weight is the huge question. Now, in April 2018, I made another attempt at losing weight. And by September 2018, I had lost weight. And what I'll share with you right now is that what I learned 3 really important things that allowed me to lose weight and keep it off. That is the huge unlock that I want to share with you today, because it's not just about losing weight, it's about keeping it off. And most of us have lost weight in the past. Most of us put it back on. So, Wellness Warrior, every day you actually have a routine when you get up in the morning and as you're moving through your day. That routine involves a lot of actions. So first thing you might jump in the shower or brush your teeth or walk your dog or whatever your first action of the morning is, run to the washroom. You do that thing. And then somewhere along the way, there's a routine that involves food. You're going to eat something. And I want to point out that the same way that when you wake up in the morning, you do not think twice about running to the washroom and then running your animal out to the bathroom, let's say, right? You don't think twice about the fact that you're going to eat something when it's time to eat something. That is so important for us to understand, because the food we actually eat is part of the routine. So, for example, there are some people that during their work week, they're not able, in their mind, They're not able to cook a full breakfast, so they will have something quick and easy, quick and easy. And that quick and easy thing is about getting something in my tummy more than it's about getting the healthiest thing in my body. And Wellness Warrior, I need us to understand that that's a huge mistake. Even though this saves you time, even though this saves you brain power and allows you to get to work on time, it's not doing anything that's good towards the health of your body and towards the weight problem that you're actually trying to solve. Right. And what's really interesting about saving brain power in the morning when we're getting ready for it, yes, that's good for our employer, but we are not evaluating how the things in our work week routine are impacting our health at all, are impacting our family. So here's what's really something we don't think about. If my health is poor, my mood will be poor, my attitude will be poor, my interaction with the world will be poor, and therefore my family is getting the worst possible version of me that they could get. I can tell you, back when my body was hurting me 24/7, I was not fun to be around. And that means that my kids and my spouse and my parents and my siblings and all the people were interacting with this version of me that didn't feel amazing when they could have been interacting with this version of me that feels amazing. And I'm not saying I'm super easy to be around now. Like I have flaws. We all have flaws. But my point is, this version of me is much more fun, is much more even, is much more like give and take, like all the positive things because I feel good. So easy and fun tend to win out when we're trying to decide what we're going to do, how we're going to eat, these habits that we have, they win out over the healthy thing, even though the healthy thing, taking more work, is going to be better for you in the long run. Change means that you need to think about what you're doing on this word. You need to be involved in whatever you're going to be cooking in that breakfast. And I said cooking. You know, those quick cereals with throwing milk in it aren't helping you to achieve your goal of better health and being at your healthy weight. If you want your life to change, you need to create a new routine, which means it's not going to be easy anymore. But it also means that the other people in your life, because they're involved in your routine, are going to be impacted by what you're doing. So you need to understand that this thing that I'm asking you to think about doing towards your better health means that the habits will be put down and means that it's going to disrupt my life because I'm going to have to put more effort into what I'm doing towards my good health, right? The food is a huge part of it, but it's also like the exercise you do, the amount of sleep you get, right? Like your routine is going to change. And the people around you are going to notice that your routine is changing. They're going to notice that you're going to bed on time. Like that's something that I'm still working on. Don't always get to bed on time, but I'm working on it. And when I do go to bed on time, you can be like the eyes that should open that, oh, you're going to bed already? Yeah, because if I'm trying to get the right amount of sleep, I should be in bed already. You need to figure out how to stay on track. And if you don't change your old weight gain routine to a new weight loss routine, then the track you're going to stay on is the track towards being heavier. The track you're going to stay on is the track towards internal damage. The track you're going to stay on is the track towards I don't feel good physically or emotionally. You'll keep eating those garbage foods that are possibly fun and tasty to eat for sure, but ruining your body. And you're going to keep doing the activities that put weight on too, right? Like when I'm eating those things, maybe I'm watching a movie. Maybe I'm lounging under in the shade under the tree rather than running around and playing with the kids, right? Like sometimes we don't even realize how choosing to entertain ourselves with food ends up putting us in the situation where we're not moving as much as our body might want us to move, which is a problem, Wellness Warrior, because movement and exercise is just healthy for the body, full stop. We need to do that for our body to stay like moving properly, but strong enough. Right? Remember, a woman with more muscle on her body, research shows, lives longer. That's good news, right? It means that we should be doing, and it doesn't have to be built in the gym. I think it's the other fallacy that's out there that says that the only way to put on muscle is in the gym. No, if you're running around playing with your kids and your grandkids, tossing them up in the air and rolling on the floor of them, you have to be getting up and going down and getting up. All of that is building muscle. It doesn't have to be pushing heavy things around. So these are things that I want us to start thinking about. And this is about building a new habit with consistent action towards your new goal. Because if we do this, if we have this mindset of this is the food I want to eat, I'm going to eat it. This is the amount of activity I want in my week, I'm going to go get it. Then we are going to have consistency, which is the number one thing that I realized was allowing my diet to rebound. So basically, for me to regain the weight, I realized it was because I was allowing myself to be inconsistent. Because what's the number one thing that you do when you actually lose weight, right? When you get to your goal, you're much more likely to say, terrific, I don't have to do this anymore. And all the old habits and all the poor quality foods come flooding back. And that is a recipe for weight gain because you're back to eating those poor quality foods. So let's talk about what you'll be consistently doing, because that's the next thing I want to touch on is that in 2018, I learned that our body puts weight on when we overeat carbohydrates. Yeah. It's not about calories. It's not about over exercising so that you can burn calories so that you can it's not. It's about the amount of sugar that you allow yourself to eat. Now, if you're healthy, what I learned is that a low carb lifestyle can very likely solve your overeating carbohydrate issue, because if your body is still insulin sensitive and healthy and functioning correctly and there's no internal damage, and maybe you've got like 5-10 pounds to lose, but it's like you're nowhere near the definition of obese, absolutely doing a low carb lifestyle is going to help you. Now, the other part of this puzzle is like if you have had a relatively healthy way of eating until the point that you notice that you're just a few pounds overweight. So, for example, a person who grew up in a family where mostly you ate normal foods, and I'm saying normal, whatever country you're in, look at the normal foods. And you didn't have many packaged foods, you didn't have many processed foods, you didn't have many store-bought like junky things. Like your parents were cooking meals and that's what you were eating. And I would say if you were doing that 90% of the time, yeah, you're in a great situation and low carb is probably going to work for you. However, if you were what people would consider fortunate enough to live in a country where packaged processed foods were readily available, if you were in a country where having access to the fun stuff, again, the candy and all the junk is readily available. So even if you had treats from your parents, if they had to make it from scratch versus that it was just package. It's the processed foods that we're learning that really turn the ship in the wrong direction. And you know how hard when you have one of those ocean liners, there's big tankers, it is hard to turn that tanker. So if you were on that processed food tanker, trying to turn this back around now and get your body to a healthy place is going to be much harder than if you were, just on a speedboat and you just like had once in a while you might have touched those processed things, but most of the time you're speeding along eating the healthy foods. Regardless of what we're considering healthy, standard diet healthy. We're going to get to that in a second, but I want to point something out. Your body doesn't have as much insulin resistance, likely, if you were eating mostly regular foods, because it takes your body a long period of time to create enough damage for insulin resistance, so your body to have to secrete excessive amounts to create more insulin for your body to be able to manage the sugar. So if I'm only having really sweet or processed things once in a blue moon, my body's managing that better. So low carb will work. If you had a lot of processed foods, you will need to do a keto lifestyle, because even if you're only 5, 10, 15 pounds overweight, but you've been eating lots of junk food because, hey, look at me, I can manage this. Guess what? Your body was probably doing other negative internal things with that sugar. Your body has to do something with the sugar. That's what I learned in 2018. If you eat large amounts of carbohydrates, your body must do something with it. And especially if it's processed carbohydrates, like those processed and ultra processed foods are really what's causing us the most problem, Wellness Warrior. And in 2018, when I was trying to figure out not only why I wasn't even trying to figure out why I was overweight, because that in my mind that ship in my mind that ship had sailed. Nothing was going to save me in my mind. I was focused on the pain that I was starting to have in my body, because even if you're fortunate enough to have gained weight rather than have internal damage happen initially, at some point, internal damage is going to happen. Now, I wasn't fortunate enough. My internal damage had actually started when I was back when I was 23. I had so much pain. I was limping because of my knee pain all the time. But by the time I was 46, which is what happened when I started looking up, like, that's what I was looking at. I was looking up the pain in my hip, and I learned that carbohydrates not only cause inflammation and pain, but also weight gain. If you're at that stage where you have insulin resistance for any reason, weight is one reason, inflammation's another reason, internal damage because of like all the repercussions of having too much insulin. If you have insulin resistance, you need to be in a keto lifestyle. That's just what it's going to be to get you to the right place where your body can start to heal. And this is coming from the doctors like, Dr. Ekberg, Dr. Barry, Dr. Berg, Dr. Fung. So many of them are saying it. Dr. Mason, Dr. Bickman, they're all talking about the fact, Dr. Georgia Eid, they're all talking about the fact that you need your body to be in a healthier place. So that means you need to dramatically reduce the amount of carbohydrates coming in if you want your body to heal and if you want to be at a healthy weight. I hope that that's clear enough, but you know what? Questions if it's not. So doing keto presented some really big challenges because it dramatically changed the foods that I needed to eat, which now meant that I had to think about meal planning, going back to my habits. So if you have a weekly meal plan, and likely you do, you might not even have labeled this a weekly meal plan, but I'm sure if you think about your week. So last week, you can think of the meals you made or ate for supper, because it would have been similar to the week before and the week before. And we have a meal plan, whether we plan to have it or not. And those foods tend to be the things that we like to eat, that are easy to eat, and that, I mean, theoretically, we would want them to be building the healthiest version of us. And I think this is where I know I was falling down. The things that I was eating on a very regular basis were not the healthiest things to build the healthiest version of me that I could have been eating, because my meal plan was based on convenience. My meal plan was based on me not having enough time. In my mind, I didn't have enough time. I needed to quickly get out of the house in the morning to get to work, and then quickly get back. And even when my schedule changed, so let's talk about that for a minute, because initially, this habit I had of rushing out of the door in the morning and then returning home so late at night that cooking was the last thing I wanted to think about, that was happening because I worked for a company. I would say, like, I worked for an entity where I had to be at work at a certain time, and it was earlier than I would want to be at work. And then I needed to work later hours than I would want to work for somebody else. So I got into this habit of quick morning things and lazy supper things, which resulted in me being, well, at one point, I know, more than 80 pounds overweight. That doesn't make sense, right? That's that's a small child. That's not even a small child. That's a pretty large sized child that I was carrying around in my body for no reason. So when you meal plan, the good thing there is that it allows you to decide in advance what healthy things you're going to eat. That's the key. It's not meal planning for things to be easy, although they might be. I mean, I can't think of anything easier than boiling some eggs the night before for breakfast the next day. That's super easy. I can't think of anything easier than throwing some eggs in a pan when I have 10-ish, 15-ish minutes for breakfast. Again, super easy. Like, it's not hard to make a healthy breakfast if you choose to decide to give yourself the time to make that healthy breakfast, whether you do it the night before or whether you do it in the morning. The other thing is that when you look at your week that passed, well, what restaurants did you go to? Again, chances are you can tell me the restaurant because you tend to go to the similar restaurants because those are the restaurants you like. Well, in this scenario, in this new scenario, you actually need to start planning the restaurants based on what they make, so that you can get a meal that falls in line with your new way of eating. Which means that some restaurants might actually be off the menu. Like, I have not been to an Italian restaurant and eaten anything, because I think I've been in one, but I didn't eat anything in years. Actually, probably since I started this way of eating or just shortly after, because I got in there and realized there's not much on the menu for me. And I think the one time I did go, I found something, but that was way back at the beginning. And I didn't have as much data as I have now, especially about the inflammatory oils and other things, which is not necessarily the topic of today's conversation, but the topic of today's conversation, because there's more than one thing that can cause insulin to rise. And seed oils cause insulin to rise because insulin has so many different roles in our body, and part of its role is also in the build and repair, and so blah blah blah. There's lots of reasons that we should be paying more attention to the foods we're eating. And when you go to a restaurant, you have so much less control over the food you're eating because you're not making it, and you can't tell the people in the back with specific detail what to use on your dish. And they might try, especially if you tell them that you're allergic, they might try, but they're not always successful. So has it happened to me where I've gone out to eat and made my requests, and then my plate comes and I see something on my plate that I said I didn't want? Absolutely. And I've got to send it back and ask them to do it again, which means now everybody else is eating. I'm not eating. You will struggle, wellness warrior, if you're not planning things properly. And that means choosing restaurants that have the best possibility of success, meal planning for yourself in a way that you have the best possibility for success. And part of that means that I'm meal planning in a way that I like what I'm eating. And in the beginning of this process, I'll tell you, that was the hardest part for me, is how am I going to eat all these vegetables and like them since I don't like vegetables? Like, that's an actual thought that I had. I don't like vegetables. I walk around with this piece of information. I avoided vegetables really all the way up until I was 46. The only vegetables that I ever ate were potatoes and carrots and maybe broccoli. So, there's something to be said about challenging yourself. And that's what I did. I challenged myself to try to figure out, how can I cook these vegetables so they taste good to me? And I actually did it. And if I could do that after having avoided vegetables from the time that I was able to cook for myself, I know that you can do it. It's about being creative. It's about engaging with your food and making good decisions and spicing things properly and just trying your best, right? And as you progress, you learn things. And as you learn things, you change things. And it just gets easier and easier. The other place that is important for you to plan is for events, vacations, and socializing. There's lots of ways to do this. I think when you're socializing, the easiest way for new people, is just eat before you go. That way, you're satisfied, satiated, not hungry, and then you're not tempted by these fun foods that are going to harm your body and make you feel bad. And it's one night, it's doable. And I did that at the beginning. I ate before I went. And at the very, very beginning, when I was nervous that I would be tempted, I actually brought like even my own like snacks. So like I would bring either some nuts at the beginning when I was still eating that, or I brought like just like, actually mostly it was nuts. I'd bring myself some nuts. And if I was tempted to eat something, I just have some of my nuts. I know today that I can go anywhere socially. And if there isn't something on the table that's food to me, I don't touch it. If you're going to an all-day event, it might be more challenging, especially if you're the kind of person that eats more than one meal a day. For me, it's still easy because I only eat one meal a day. So depending on the timing of the event, I'll either eat my meal before I go or eat my meal when I get back. I have no problem. Or I have the ability to fast. Might even, if I'm not hungry before the event and I make it to the end of the event, but I don't feel like cooking, I might just fast and just eat the next day. That isn't a big deal to me. It doesn't mean that you're there right now. I would encourage you to figure out for bigger events where you know you're going to be there for hours. I would make my first request is to the event organizer that wants me to be there. How can we have something that I can actually eat? And people are much more accommodating when you talk about your changes based on allergy than they are based on weight loss. So I'm just throwing that out there. I want us all to understand that the toxic nature of sugar, in my opinion, qualifies it as an allergy. And so when I'm talking about these things, I just start talking, I throw the word allergy out. The toxic nature of seed oils, again, to my vision, that qualifies it as an allergy. So if we're trying to get some accommodations, those are words that you can use. It is much harder to accommodate on a vacation because I'm going to be away from my home for days to weeks. On a vacation, if you have the ability to book a place where you can cook, you're making your life easier for you. You just cook your meals at home and be out and about for the fun parts. That's easiest. But even on vacation, sometimes Pat, I, and the kids, we did go to restaurants And it really is an exercise in using Google and calling ahead and making sure that people can accommodate you. And most restaurants want your money. And so they will try their best to accommodate you. I will say that for myself, on every vacation we've gone to, we only had one day where the restaurant that we initially thought we were going to use, when we got there, couldn't accommodate in the end. Like when they started talking to the waitress, she's like, I don't know who told you that. I'm going to go check in the back, but I don't think that's possible. And she came back and she was like, I'm not confident. And because I used the word allergy, wellness warrior, and using that word allowed her to be like, I'm not confident that you, ma'am, that you're not going to have a reaction. So I'm going to encourage you to find somewhere else. And we did find somewhere else a few blocks down the road that was able to accommodate. Using the right words matters, wellness warrior, because people don't want to make you sick. They want to make profit, but actual people that could see your eyes and hear your voice and are talking with you don't want to make you sick. Like maybe when I called some kind of corporate number. We were in the United States, so maybe what I called was more of a corporate number than the actual restaurant. But that very nice server did not want me to be ill. So a lot of what we're talking about right now is the fact that we're trying our best to plan for wins. We're trying our best to plan for celebrations and food. And so how do you plan for a win? That's the other thing here. Like when I am happy or when it's my birthday, what is my celebratory thing going to be? Because no longer going to be cake or chocolate or ice cream, right? And one thing that I think most people in the healthy world are not doing enough of is celebrating with positive food. Like, why can't my celebration be a nicer cut of meat, for example? Why can't my celebration thing be that really like tasty vegetable dish that takes a little longer to make? But I love it, but it's just, oh, I have to chop this and do the that and stir fry and all the things that make it just that little bit. Why can't that be my celebration thing? So if you still want to treat yourself with food, why can't we choose the healthier? And we can absolutely choose the healthier thing. However, the other option that you have, Wellness Warrior, is that you could treat yourself with activities. Like, for example, the kids finish school, and the first thing Pat and I thought was, let's go climbing. Like we're going to go climbing, and we can go in the middle of the week. We would never usually get to do that. Like these are fun ideas that we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, and like make it special because we're doing it at a different time. Or we can do something that maybe we don't get to do very often, like actually go climbing in the trees versus just climbing indoors. That's a bigger event. It's much more fun and it's much more of a treat. And because it's something we don't do all the time. So we need to plan for our wins and how we're going to be happy with ourselves, how we're going to show ourselves that we acknowledge the progress. A lot of people will celebrate their 20, 30-pound weight loss by eating junk food. And to me, I don't understand why that's a thing. Like that celebration portion, it was something I luckily never did because I didn't get the point of that. But I did end the diet, which turns out to be just about the same, right? Because if I end the diet, even though I don't end up celebrating by eating something right away, at some point in the coming weeks, I eat something that's fun. And then all of a sudden I'm chasing and eating the wrong things again. And right. And that was my history. So, okay. So talking about junk food, how do you deal with temptation? Right? Because 80% of weight loss is about food. And that junk that we're eating because it tastes fun is actually taking us off track. It's actually the thing that is equaling, and now my weight is rising again. And I feel like the thing is, we try to avoid temptation. We try to replace it. So we try to get these low calorie, low sugar versions. And so I say low sugar there too, because we do both. But what we don't understand is that sweet things cause problems. I'm going to talk about this more later, the taste of sweet. But just understand that if you try to replace the normal cookie with diet cookie, the diet cookie, well, first of all, it never tastes as good as the normal cookie. So you end up wanting the normal cookie. And some people end up eating the normal cookie because the diet cookie didn't satisfy them. So now I've just eaten more than I would have eaten if I just eaten the normal cookie. But the other thing is that it keeps us thinking about this stuff as tempting. It keeps us thinking about this stuff as something that we want to eat. The real way to get rid of temptation is to be happy with what you're eating, Wellness Warrior. You need to make meals that taste good to you. You notice I keep saying certain things to meals is the other part of this, but we're going to talk about that later. But you need to make meals that taste good to you. Because if you make meals that taste good to you, then you'll eat them. And if you eat them, that other stuff stops being as tempting. But it's not just going to stop being tempting on its own. You are committing to eating the right way. Right? So the first part of this that I want to just drop here is that you're planning for success, man. And temptation still being on the table isn't you planning for success. Temptation still being on the table means that you are still allowing yourself to see this stuff as an option, to see this stuff as food, to see this stuff as something that you would actually put in your mouth. I no longer see cookies, chocolate, ice cream as something that I would put in my mouth. That's why I don't try to make alternate versions of it anymore. Why would I make alternate versions of something that I don't consider food? Weight maintenance is about the foods you eat. And 80% of your weight, so what you weigh, is going to be about the food you eat. 20% is all the other stuff. And if I understand that and really apply that, then the decisions I make about what I call food matter so much more than anything else I'm going to do, because that's what I'm going to actually put in my mouth. So if you decide in advance what you will eat, you're more likely to eat it. But if you try to wing it, if you try to wait and like give yourself options, you're much less likely to eat the good food, and you're much more likely to go back to your old habits. When you decide to eat a keto lifestyle, you're accepting that you will resume eating fat, by the way. Because that old diet that you were on before that said calories in, calories out, also said don't eat the fat because more calories. So you were eating lean meat, and now you're back to eating the fat that comes on your meat because the carbohydrates aren't there to energize you, right? Again, something I'm going to talk about in a bit. But for most people, reintroducing bacon and fried chicken and steak and the whole egg sounds wonderful, sounds blissful, is amazing. It's what we exactly want. We're so happy to be reintroducing these foods because we want our body to be healthy, first of all, but also because they're fun to eat. I can tell you that my new favorite food to have back in my diet is bacon. I can have bacon. I sometimes I just give it a break. Like right now, I'm on a break from it because I was just eating and eating and eating. But I love bacon. And I'm not taking a break from it because it's not healthy. I'm taking a break from it because I was just having it every day. Right. The same thing with eggs is I'm probably going to be on a break from eggs in a bit because I'm just eating it every day. I love eating these things. And the fact that I can eat them as much as I want until my body says, hey, that's enough for today. That is music to my ears. All right. But I need you to understand something, Wellness Warrior. If you allow fat back into your life, and then you decide that you're going to take a few days off. I'm tired of doing all this, diet stuff, and I'm going to eat those carbs. There's a very high probability that you're going to have a huge problem because you've allowed the fat back in. And so even though you're taking a break from the diet, you're not necessarily going back to lean. I've never met somebody who on their cheat day went lean. They typically have now high fat, high carb because, oh yeah, bacon's fine, but so is pasta. The steak with all the fat on it is fine, and so are these potatoes. And I'm going to have ice cream for dessert. Do we see the problem? Now I'm doing high fat, high carb, which is standard diet, by the way, because most people are not on a diet all the time. And so most people are not eating lean all the time. When you go out to eat and have that normal meal, it's high carb, high fat. So this is a deadly combination. It ruins our health, in my opinion. There isn't a way to do half of keto or half of carnivore, right? You can't be eating this high fat way of life and then take a day off. It puts your body in a bad situation because, first of all, years of high carbohydrate eating has primed our bodies to put on weight, so that even when we take in moderate amounts of carbohydrate, because of our insulin being just as high as it is, because we've been eating high carb for as many years as we have been, our body puts weight on. As you saw from my slide at the very beginning there, I'll show it to you again. Like, look at the fact that in between, I have so much trouble going down in weight, right? Like that first time, I did an amazing job. This last time, I did an amazing job. In between, I'm putting on more than I'm taking off. And that is a huge piece of information for you to pay attention to, Wellness Warrior. Because if you don't pay attention to it, you're going to mistakenly believe that calories in, calories out can just be translated over to carbs in, carbs. Oh, when I'm having carbs, it's all going to, I'm not having carbs, it's all going to go well. And when I have carbs, it's going to put on a little bit, but then I'll just not have carbs. No, that's not how this is going to work. The first time that you do this and you really take those carbohydrates out of your life, yeah, your body's going to lose weight. And then if you allow those carbs back in, your body's going to put on weight quickly, like it always does. But then when you try to do it again, the weight loss is slower. And a lot of people get confused by that. But you've done this before, and our body has this thing called homeostasis. Once it figures out what's happening, it adjusts. And if you allow yourself to step in and out of a ketogenic situation, why do we not think our body is going to adjust? Oh, is that what we're doing now? Every once in a while, you're going to throw all these carbs at me. That means I need this insulin to not be too far away because I know it's going to happen again. I don't think our body is dumb. I think we think it's dumb. I think we think it's just like a car. I built it. I can do whatever I want with that car. No, your body has one job. That's to keep you as healthy as it possibly can, because without you, it doesn't exist, right? And if you do something that could fix the story and then turn around, break it again, now your body just learned, can't trust her or him. And so it's going to protect itself from the mistake it knows that you're going to make again. And we do. Right? We yo-yo diet. We make the mistake again because somehow we're not letting ourselves understand that fun food, the garbage that we keep putting in our body that's causing our weight gain, causing our health problems, causing our mental health problems is the problem. And so if my body can't stop me from intaking it, it's going to be ready to defend against it. Wellness Warrior, if you want your body to be healthy, then what you actually need to do is make sure that you're in the situation where when you're going to go and eat something, your body knows exactly what's coming in from the taste of it So no artificial sweeteners or whatever. Like if sugar's coming in, it should know. But second of all, that you're not overloading it with stuff that it's clearly telling you it doesn't want. How does my body clearly tell me that it doesn't want this stuff that I'm eating, the garbage that I'm eating, the toxins that I'm eating? My body doesn't feel good. My mood is horrendous. And my weight is rising. The internal damage that's being caused. All of this stuff, wellness warrior, is your body saying, hey, this isn't working. And if I listen to my body saying that it's not working, my body will help me. If I don't listen, my body's not going to be able to help me. So if we eat carbs, even in moderate amounts, if we are already insulin resistant, the insulin is struggling. Your body is going to need so much more insulin to do the job. And so every time you cheat, you're just pushing your insulin resistance, which is exactly the opposite of what a keto and carnivore diet is going to help you to solve, which is why there are no days off. Insulin being high causes metabolic problems, right? High carb foods have other problems in them besides like carbs, right? There's plant toxins, there's chemicals in the processed stuff. So there's other reasons. It's not necessarily the point of today's conversation, but there's other reasons not to eat the stuff, right? If you want to be healthy, you need to commit to the process and stick to your plan because you made this plan, right? I mean, earlier we planned it out. This is what I'm going to eat. This is what I'm going to do, right? If you want to be healthy, you need to acknowledge and accept that these toxins that you keep putting in your body are the reason for your weight gain, right? A huge benefit of keto is that it helps you to regulate your insulin. So let's talk about that for a second, because those insulin, like it plays a huge role in your body's ability to build itself and to repair itself. So when insulin is stable, your body has a chance to begin to heal itself. So that's the first thing. And your hormones also get to be regulated. We need to keep in mind that like the levels of hormones, because we are a system, are in balance. And so when we keep eating too much sugar and our insulin is rising to try to deal with the incoming sugar, the other hormones actually get out of regulation, right? They're not at their optimal levels for a healthy body. They're optimal levels for a body that has too much insulin. And too much is relative again. So why this is kind of a crazy thing to talk about is because like when we go to the doctor doesn't, first of all, your body doesn't show extra insulin immediately based on the amount of sugar that you're eating because insulin is doing its job. So you're eating stuff, insulin is coming in, it's getting rid of the sugar in whatever way, whether it's putting it in fat storage, using some of it for energy, building is doing stuff, right? When your body starts being able to handle the amount of sugar that's coming in. So you're going to start to see a little bit extra insulin, right? When they start testing for whatever they're testing for, and they can start to see, oh, your A1C is changing. Blah, blah. When those changes are happening, insulin has already been producing been more produced. Your body's already been producing more insulin than it would have had you been eating a normal diet for what humans are supposed to eat, which would be, even if we just say under 100 grams per day. So a healthy person, no weight problems, no internal damage, no anything wrong with them. If you were 100 grams of carbs or less, I believe, this is my guesstimate here, but I believe that your body would produce a normal amount of insulin And if you're not eating any processed foods, make sure any seed oils, all the stupid stuff, any milk products, all the stupid stuff that makes my body react and have more insulin. If I'm not eating any of those things, our body would produce the right amount of insulin. Now, what gets tricky is that by the time that we get to this thing that they're calling insulin resistance, my body is so damaged where sugar regulation is concerned. It's not controlling its sugar properly. It's so damaged that now, in order for my body to be able to regulate itself, what it's actually having to do is it's actually having to um like how do I say that? Your body is actually increasing the amount of insulin that it's producing to a point where it gets eventually to a point where it's danger zone that it won't be able to keep producing this way forever. Now, we need insulin as long as we're living. So your body not being able to produce insulin enough forever is a problem. And so doctors start noticing that somewhere around, I think 5.7 is the number, where they're like, okay, you might need something. And I think once you get past that, I think maybe 6, I'm not exactly sure, they start giving you medication to kind of help. But eventually you might even end up on insulin itself because your body just stops producing it. Why is all this happening? Because I kept bringing it. I guess the best way for me to explain this, 'cause I feel like I'm going in a circle right now, is it's like if I'm trying to clean my house, but the kids are playing in the sandbox and they keep coming in the house. So as I clean up sand, they come in the house. I clean up sand, but and I might be able to keep ahead of that if it's just my 2 or 3 kids coming in and out. But then the neighborhood kids join the game. And now they're in the sandbox, they're coming in the house, and then the neighborhood kids and their parents join the game. And at some point, it's like I will never be able to clean the sand up from my house because for every time I can scoop a shovel full of sand out, 5 shovelfuls come back in. I will get buried in sand. And that's what's happening to your body. Your body is becoming completely overwhelmed by the sugar that you're eating and it can't keep up. And your job is to make sure that you bring that sugar intake down so that your body can actually keep up. Because when your insulin is stable, that's when your body's going to be able to do what it needs to do. Right. And the major, like, the benefit, okay, the benefit of this is that you're going to eat and you're going to notice that you're not hungry all the time. I feel like this is the other piece of the puzzle is that a lot of people, when they're eating carbohydrates, a lot of people, when they're eating these fun things and they don't understand the impact that these things have on their body, they don't realize that part of the reason we are hungry all the time is because insulin being active all the time whenever we eat because we're eating carbohydrates means that instead of us being able to access the energy that we bring in, we end up storing it away as fat and then having to go through a process of pulling energy either out of our muscles or out of fat storage, but not able to use the fat that came in more directly because we tend to eat our fat alongside carbohydrates, right? That steak and potatoes, that spaghetti and meat sauce. So even though we're getting the oils in that could be used as energy, our body doesn't have access because it's in storage mode. One of the things that I learned right at the beginning in 2018 from Dr. Jason Fung was that when your body's in storage mode, your body's in storage mode. You are not going to have access to that energy. And he pointed this out, especially for athletes and people that think that they need to carb load before they work out. He's like, you're not doing anything good for yourself because your body doesn't have access. That's not helping. And when I heard that That really just changed my whole thought process on eating. But the other piece of the puzzle, going back to the taste of sweet, we allow ourselves to eat fun things. We allow ourselves to eat things that they're delicious because they're sweet tasting, but we don't realize that that sweet taste is what's causing our body to jump in, and insulin is coming in and it's trying to get rid of the extra sugar. And so we eat the thing, and it could be a snack. I could be having this granola bar or cookie because I'm hungry in between my two meals, and I eat it. And then when the meal comes around, I'm even hungrier. Why? Because I ate this granola bar. There's no animal protein in there to save its life. So it's not doing me any favors. My body puts it away, and I'm still hungry. So I ate for nothing. It doesn't make sense that we eat and we're hungry all the time, but that's what we're doing. And we don't realize it's because we're eating the wrong things. So my brain, when I eat sugar-free things, because we do that thinking that it's going to save us from the calories, body doesn't care about calories. Your body thinks that there's sugar coming in when you eat something sugar-free, but there's not. Your body doesn't know that. So what does your body do? It puts some sugar away out of your blood in the preparation for the incoming sugar that doesn't come. So that cookie or granola bar that I had between lunch and supper because I was hungry, and then I get to supper and I'm even hungrier. Well, the reason I was even hungrier was because my body, when it tasted the sweetness coming in, made space for the sugar. So now I have even less access, and it's still going to turn and take the sugar that came in and put it away. Why? Because that's what your body does with sugar that comes in. It doesn't get used directly. It gets made into fat, and then it goes through a process to be used in the body. It's normal. It's what it's supposed to do. We shouldn't be mad at our body for that. We should be happy, actually, because my body turns the sugar that comes in into fat. It means that it's not using it in other damaging ways, like what happened to me, where the sugar that was coming in when I was a mere 23 years old, so not to say that I was an old person at the time, the sugar was causing my joints to be in pain. And I was inflamed all over the place. And it started in my knees and then my elbows and my back, and my neck at one point was, I couldn't even turn my head. It was horrific, Wellness Warrior. Do we understand that there is no getting around what your body wants to do? Like, it's going to do what's healthiest for you. It's going to keep you alive. It wants you to be healthy, full stop. That's what your body wants. So changing isn't easy. It never is, right? But I want us to keep in mind that easy rarely gets us what we want in life. And if we get something easily, we devalue it. We think it was, who cares, right? Like, we think we want easy, but then there have been occasions where you got something easily and tossed it to the side. How many times have you gotten something that you really, really wanted, but someone got it for you as a gift, and then you didn't quite use it as much as you thought you were going to use it? Why? Because you didn't work for it. You didn't fight for it. You didn't go out there and get it yourself. You didn't pick the one you want, right? There's so much that we think easy is the answer. It's not. If you want something to matter to you, work for it. The focus is doing what's healthiest so that your body can give you the best possible body to do the activities that you're going to enjoy in your life. And if you work, so if you're focused on that and you work towards that and you get that, you're going to feel amazing about it because you made that happen and it wasn't easy. You've tried to lose weight before. You know, even though I lost like 80 pounds in 5 months, that sounds easy, but I know how hard it was, right? And the funny part is, it wasn't hard in actions, but there was a lot of mental gymnastics that I did do to talk to myself about, I'm going out. What am I going to eat? I'm making supper. What am I making? I'm tired. I don't want to make supper. That would be easier, but I'm making supper anyway because I am committed to this idea of making supper. I planned what I was going to eat in advance because I know if I plan, I'm going to do better. I plan for even as like recently as yesterday. I had a plan in my head and I followed through because that's it. I learned recently that aluminum foil might not be the best thing to cook with. And so, like, apparently, aluminum, when you cook with it, can get into your food. I didn't know that. How I didn't know that, I don't know, but I didn't know that. And so I said, when I learned that a few days ago, not cooking with aluminum anymore. I'm not eating anything that was cooked on aluminum anymore. Like, that's the end of the story. And then went to supper and the person had cooked on aluminum foil and I was like, yeah, not eating that. Now, luckily there was another option for me, but had there not been another option, I would have either made something else for myself to eat or I would have not eaten because I decided I'm not eating anything cooked on aluminum foil ever again because why would I even take the chance? Wellness warrior, if you don't commit to the things that you say are healthy, you're not going to be able to get the results that you want to get. This is basic. This is very basic. This is about you making decisions that are going to make your life better because you're actually sticking to what you say you want for yourself. Right? Because if you don't stick to what you say you want for yourself, then nobody else is going to force you to do it. Right? Nobody's going to say, oh, the health risk of doing that, Violet, you really shouldn't do it. No, if I decide to eat that versus if I go back to eating sugary, junky food, who can stop me? So I need to be the one doing that for myself. I want you to do it for yourself. That's why I came up with these ideas, right? You're going to be consistent every single day. You're going to take actions towards your health, right? Every day, every opportunity. You're going to plan for your success every day. You're going to plan. You're going to know what you're eating. You're going to know what activities you're going to do. So for the bodily exercise, you plan it. You're going to commit to your health and your eating plan, right? And you're going to, by committing to it, it doesn't matter the story. It doesn't matter where you do it because you need to understand, right? Your body works a certain way. And if you just trust your body is going to regulate your weight. I just gave my body the right foods because trust me, I wasn't working out like a mad person. I wasn't doing extra stuff. All I did was eat the food that I said I was going to eat all the time, no matter what. Now, I want to know from you guys if this made sense. We're going to jump into the comments, but I also want you to know that it's important for you to understand why fruit is a problem. So there's a video linked in the description that you can check out. It's going to explain to you why fruit is a problem. Because it is. That nature's candy stuff, we shouldn't be having it. So you can watch that video next. I see that there are comments. I want to run through real quick and say hello to people. And then I'm going to grab any questions afterwards. Hi, Pat. I'm so happy that you're here. And hello, Laura and Ian. Hello from Ontario. Glad that you're joining. Hi, James. Nice to see you here. Hello, Gradual Legends. Oh, I see a new face. Mary Jane, the Tiny Warrior. Hello. And Progress in Transformation. Hello. So if you have questions, I would love to answer questions today. Q in front of them. But I'm also just grabbing some interesting looking comments as I move through here. Lady Summer Queen, Candace. Hello, Candace. Thank you for putting your name in. Nice to see you here. Okay, so I feel like I've gotten to most of the new people. Let me just go back and grab these comments that I starred. Laura, thank God for air fryers. It makes an animal-based diet fast and easy and convenient. I definitely have an air fryer. I've used my air fryer. I don't know what it is about getting healthy. I feel like it's changed my personality a little bit. I used to be the person that hated cooking. And I still won't say that I love it, because that would be completely overstating that. But what I will say is it doesn't bother me as much as it used to bother me before. I have an air fryer, but I tend to fry my stuff on the stove for some reason. Well, I do feel it tastes better. So the lazy in me hasn't taken over in order to put it in the air fryer, but I have also realized that if you do like really thick steak, that is not steak, I want to say pork chops that are, there's a certain kind of pork chop that I buy. It doesn't have a bone in it, but they're really thick. If you try to fry those on the pan, they don't come out great. So those I've been air frying and I've been loving that. Um, and the next one here says, your grandmother, Laura again, your grandmother was Sicilian and she made a lot of fish and meat dishes. Restaurants push pasta and flour dishes because it's cheaper for them to make. Can I point out, because my dad is a chef and he said the same thing. He said that when you go to a restaurant, you often get a lot more of the side dish because it's cheaper. And he told me basically the way that you can tell a nice restaurant, a nice restaurant will give you more meat or proteins, whatever the protein source was. The more expensive thing will be more on the plate. Let's see. So Fit for Life, I think that's before my time with eating out and portion sizes. I've never read that book, but I might check it out just to see what kind of information is in there. And so Pat has something to say. On vacation and all inclusive, it's quite easy to eat properly. Yeah, the all inclusive was an easier way for us because like I was able to just take the meats. I will say that I was a bit disappointed that the meats were lean, like all the meats were lean. So it was hard. I had to keep asking for butter to kind of add to my stuff. But yeah, you figure things out. The coffee was pretty nice there at some of the places, so that was nice. So keto and carnivore buffets, that would be another great alternative. So those are good restaurant options when you have places that have a lot of meat. And there's, what do you call those restaurants? I don't know if Pat's gonna put it up in the chat, but they're all like the K barbecue has a lot of it's a barbecue place that's on a lot of meat. And then Brazilian barbecue places, I think they're called. So Javier, how are you doing? You can replace anything with something else. You can choose something else, but replacing is not the point. It's about repeating good, nutritious nutrition and continuing to so. I love that, Javier, because it's true. If you keep replacing things, you're telling yourself that what you want is a healthy version of a bad thing. And most often that's not reality. There aren't healthy versions of bad things. There's healthy things and there's not healthy things. And I think we need to accept that. We've been spoiled, Wellness Warrior. We've been spoiled with having so much options. We've been spoiled with having convenience. But I think also Companies spoil us with this convenience idea because they know it keeps us eating the wrong thing. And so it lines their pockets in so many different ways that puts us in a bad situation. And he goes on to say, if you make mistakes with sweets, start over. Yes. But remember, we can only start over so many times. Like no, I shouldn't say we can only start over so many. That's not what I mean to say. We can start over, but every time we start over, it's harder every time. Right. And I think that if you're using starting over as a crutch, that's a bad idea. But if you're starting over because you generally made a mistake, yeah, start over. I think that it's so hard for us to understand that there is work involved in doing this. It's not simple. It's not easy. We want it to be simple and easy, but the truth is, good health actually takes work. And I remember I used to say that in my earlier videos, like good health takes work. That was part of what I said all the time because it's true. Even though it only took me 5 months, it still took work. I still had to think sometimes. And since our brain is the one organ in our body that uses the most energy, making myself think is, yes, working my body more than I would ever need to work it to do anything else, right? You think lifting heavy things is a lot of work? Yeah, try thinking all day. You'll be exhausted by the end of the day. We discount how much thinking matters. And therefore, when we are thinking, we don't give it enough attention. So if you make a mistake, sure, start over, but also be committed to making less mistakes. So our taste buds and digestive system appear to have changed with time the longer we are healthy. My spouse and I feel bloated and sick if we eat anything high carb now, so we avoid it. Laura, that's an amazing point. It's not just you, though, it's every person, which is the great news. Every single person on the planet, if you allow yourself to eat healthy foods, eventually the healthy foods taste good. And I say that with confidence because if we look at the flavor profile of other countries, they're not the same as ours. So, for example, over in China, their flavor profile is very different. And the things that they consider candy, we would not think that that's fun to eat. They love it. Same thing with other countries. Like if you go maybe like Russia, for example, I'm sure has different flavor profiles than what would be typical cuisine in North America. Australia, very different cuisine. They have that Vegemite stuff, right? In Australia, I think it is, that they eat. And like apparently when North Americans smell it, we're just like repulsed. So, every culture, even blue cheese, every culture has this thing that they find delicious that the rest of us don't until we get used to it. And that's the part that's kind of interesting. If you end up moving, let's say to China or somewhere, and you live there long enough, your flavor profile changes and you get used to what everybody else is eating and it just becomes normal. Which also means, though, and let's be careful, because it also means that we can get used to something that we shouldn't get used to, which is what food companies have put us doing, right? They've gotten us all used to eating sweet tasting things like if they're not sweet, like if they're normal, regular flavored stuff. And that is causing so much problems for us. Our health is not good. And we don't seem to blink at it because we're just used to eating this way. So we need to change what we're doing if we want it to change. And that's where this process comes in. You need to plan what you're going to eat, and then you have to commit to the plan. And yes, I agree with you, Ian. The problem is combining fats with carbs. But it's also having lots of carbs. So there are like, especially processed carbs. Let me be very specific. If you were only eating plants it would be less of a problem. But we need to even understand that the plants we eat today have been genetically modified to be bigger, sweeter, like and more resistant to bugs. And the way that they make plants more resistant to bugs is by putting chemicals like on them. So first of all, which is a problem, but also genetic modifications that make them a bit more toxic to the bugs, and without kind of thinking about the fact, well, you're also making them more toxic for me, right? So like I don't think scientists consider the fact that even if in small doses these chemicals seem harmless, we're not having them in small doses once in a blue moon. We're having them in small doses daily, all the time. And it is too much. So I really do feel like we need to call food what it is, which is fat and protein, which is the meat, poultry, fish. And then we need to look at these other things. And eggs can be in there if you can tolerate eggs. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave it off. And then these other things, all the plants, they're not food. They're entertaining things that we eat sometimes, and it should stay sometimes. It shouldn't be part of our meal plan. It's theorized. Okay, so sorry, I missed it. The Randall cycle, also known as the glucose fatty acid cycle, is a metabolic process involving the competition of glucose and fatty acids for substrates. It is theorized to play a role in explaining type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. It was named after Philip Randall. And the Randall cycle, I believe, because Ian brought that up earlier, that the Randall cycle is what we're talking about. And I think that we all should have some understanding of how our body works. And yes, understanding that our body uses both carbohydrates and fats as fuel sources internally is important for us to understand. I think the more important thing for us to understand is we never need to eat carbohydrates. If we don't eat carbohydrates, our body makes all that we need. We have to eat fat. It's the only, like we cannot make all the fat that we need. Our body makes all the sugar that we need. So if we understand that part of the story, I think that the other more interesting thing is that we allow ourselves to eat food, fish, poultry, eggs, and meat, and then let our body do what it's supposed to do. It knows how to do it. And I think if we could just stop getting in our body's way and let our body take care of us, because that's its one goal, right? It wants to be as healthy as possible all the time. If you give it the right building blocks, it'll do that. The human body is so special. Give it crap and it'll work. Feed it healthy food and it will work optimally. Love that. Laura says, this makes sense. Bacon used to nauseate me and make me dizzy. So I avoided it. Strangely, now cookies have that effect and bacon doesn't. The switch is so weird. Much easier now to digest high fat meat. Yeah, because our body is trying to make sense of it, of what's coming in, and our body has at least some basis of, like, you ate this yesterday, you ate that. So I think part of the reason that certain things made me feel ill, and I can only talk about myself because this did happen. Like, I went through periods of time where I seemed lactose intolerant, and then other periods of time where I would have dairy products, including drinking milk, and be absolutely fine. Why? Well, one thing that I've noticed is that when my body can't handle something, it makes me not want to have it. And how does it do that? It makes it taste bad to me. and it makes me feel like like I just right. And it's a different kind of negative feeling than when you're finished eating on a carnivore diet where you just feel like I can't eat anymore. It is more of a nauseous feeling, like what Laura's talking about. And I've noticed that for different. Oh, the other thing that my body did to me, candy, like made my tongue actually hurt. And so, like, I stopped eating candy, obviously. Like, that didn't make any sense. Why would I eat something that makes my tongue hurt? But not everybody seems to have these kind of good, like, their body doesn't protect them in this way that it just makes whatever the thing you're eating that isn't healthy unpleasant for you to eat. I'm lucky, and I've said it multiple times. I'm lucky that my tongue hurt for candy and I felt nauseous for certain foods, and that, like I got headaches for other certain foods that I put it together. Like every time I eat that, I get a headache, and that I got fat. Because while I was getting fat, my body wasn't damaging more of me. I could have had so much more health problems than I have today had my body went from inflammation to some kind of internal thing and let me stay thin. I'm happy that I didn't stay thin. And I know that seems not, but I'd rather be overweight than in pain. And I've lived both. So I'm telling you my personal preference. You might have a different preference, but my personal preference, oh my goodness, being heavy is so much easier than a good doctor should always ask, what are you eating? And from there, the conversation continues. Then everything will be different with our diagnosis. Yes, if the doctor understands food, everything will be different. I totally agree with that. Pat agrees as well. And yes, check out the video from yesterday because Georgia and I talked about that. Talked about food and all that stuff. So that was really interesting. Hello, Ginger Cameron Ford Crouch from Midland, Texas. Nice to have you here. And thank you for watching, Javi. I really appreciate it. And crazy to think there's such a disconnect between our symptoms and the absence of diet consideration in their diagnosis. Much better to fix it with pills. Yeah, doctors focus on fixing with pills because that's what they're trained to do. And after watching many doctors, like so many of the doctors, they are so apologetic when they figure out the reality of what food can do and what the pills were failing to do. When they make the connection and change, the apologies that I've seen in spontaneity too, right? Like just talking about something and being like, I'm so sorry that I ever XYZ because that was wrong. And even myself, right? Like the conversations I've had with people who wanted to lose weight and said the whole calories in, calories out stupidity. And I apologize for that as well because it's just garbage. It's not reality. So I don't blame doctors because they don't know that, like they're doing what they were taught. They're doing what they believe in. And until you know differently, you're going to keep believing it. I blame doctors who are without any research, just ignoring what they're being told. Like they see it come up there, everyone's talking about keto and carnivore, and they're just not investigating. Those are the doctors that I'm more shaking my head and being like, yeah, no, I don't think that's right. I think you should be verifying. And yes, Have, you're right. The body has no calorie counter. The body responds to what we eat and it does what it's supposed to do because the body is smart. Couldn't agree more. Much smarter than us, Pat adds. Hello, Zach. And yes, that is true. Jeff, hello. My fast food on the way to work is a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. And I throw away the biscuit, meat, eggs, and cheese, along with a bovine collagen and coconut oil coffee. Yeah, I mean, you're making it work. So that's what's the important thing. And I think that I know that some restaurants, you don't even have to order the biscuit. You can just say no biscuit and they'll do it for you. But yeah, I think if you're to the point where you can throw the biscuit away and you don't get that temptation to taste it, then go for it. makes the ordering process a little easier. And actually, it can make it even easier in terms of eating because you can keep your fingers clean by just moving the meat up and then just kind of pulling it forward as you eat. And just kind of save your fingers. Um, Hello, Lynn. Nice to have you here from Portland, Portugal. Sorry. Um, oh, you're leaving for Portugal. I can't read today. Looking forward to staying the course. Cool. That's a lot of travel. I feel like every time I read one of your posts, you're traveling somewhere else. Congrats to you for checking out the world. So Ian says, yes, the aluminum issue is another problem that has been suppressed. Okay. Let's see. I've noticed that if I slip a little, all those cravings for the carbs comes on with a vengeance. That is because we most of us are not even aware that we were addicted to carbohydrates. And so when we take them out of our diet initially and we live withdrawal and they tell us, oh, that's keto flu, we believe them, not realizing that no, it was withdrawal because you were addicted to carbohydrates. But then you add to that when you end up um, doing well and you didn't acknowledge that you had a withdrawal symptom, so therefore we're addicted, you think that you can easily just let them back in and then put them out again because I've done it once before. And then we are in the same problem that people who drink are in, because when you go back to alcohol after having not drank, it's a problem. You struggle. And getting out of it the second time is harder. Getting out of it the third time is even harder. And some people, like, and so if you keep going in and out, some people get back in and just can't get out. So we need to understand that these foods, and I'm calling them foods, but these foods are not helping us in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so and if there's questions specific to this topic that was today, I don't mind that either. Let's see. Nutrition is the most important thing for the human body. I couldn't agree more, Javier. I definitely think that food companies want us to believe that the fortification they do to food is healthy, but a lot of that fortification is coming from plant sources. So, not the form of the whatever they're putting in there that our body can use efficiently or at all, so in some cases. And so it's just a big waste of time. Lived it so long ago, harder to get back on track every time. Yeah. Oh, we lived the withdrawal so long ago. Yeah, because that's the other thing too. Is like it's not sometimes when you allow carbohydrates or the wrong thing back into your diet, the withdrawal the next time round is less for some people. And so if you don't have a big like if you don't see it happening and feel like horrible and you just get a little bit of jonesing like, oh, I want to eat it, but like you're able to not do it, that doesn't feel as bad. And I mean, maybe that's good because you're not suffering, but the flip side of the coin is it allows you to then have your weight continue to rise. It allows you to then like have your damage internally continue to happen. And wellness warrior, I want us to do that. I want us to pay less attention to the weight, because I think when we focus only on the weight, what ends up happening is that we are so what's what I'm looking for, we're so happy that we're still 50 pounds lighter than we were before, even though you put back on 20, that we're settling for this when our body could be at goal weight. And that's the piece of the puzzle that most of us are not seeing. Why am I letting myself settle for that? I'm letting myself settle for that because I've re-engaged with my addiction and now I'm doing these mind games that I do with myself that aren't helping me. They aren't helping me for my health, because what if I do stay here? What if I just hover around this 20 pounds extra that I'm comfortable with? Okay. Does it change the fact that every time you eat that thing that's off plan, your body is being damaged? So I'm not seeing weight. What is my body doing? That is the piece of the puzzle, Wellness Warrior, that I figured out in 2018. That earlier on in my life, all the joint pains and back pains and, all my joints that were hurting, so my body was hurting me, was the sugar that I was eating that wasn't making me fat. So I thought I was getting away with it. I wasn't getting away with it. I was just suffering in a different way. We will all suffer in some way if we don't get our food under control. And sometimes that suffering leads to catastrophic failure. And if you end up at a catastrophic failure, well, that's a bad time for everybody, right? Because then we're missing you because you're no longer with us, and that's sad. So let's make the changes before the changes can't be made. Eva Miller, hello. Sugar withdrawal. You had a question above. I don't know how far up I'd have to go to find it. So can you drop the question again, Eva? And I will look out for it the next as I come down because I don't see it. Sugar withdrawal. Yeah. But just on the topic of sugar withdrawal, which I just mentioned, but if you're withdrawing from sugar, that means that your body is not managing. And if your body was addicted, that's what it means. If you're withdrawing from sugar, your body was addicted. And if you're addicted, then now you need to manage the fact that you're addicted. I don't know that there's an adult on the planet that was not addicted to sugar at some point if you ate a normal diet. Just trying to say that in the best possible way. So I'll give you the example of even in my family, all the adults who are the generation above me who didn't do the candy thing, the cookie thing, like again, in their mind, that's children's food. For anybody who's new here, that's what they used to say. But they still were addicted to carbohydrates because of the high amount of bread and pasta and rice and vegetables that they were eating. And so, like, when I talk about what I'm doing, the idea of not eating bread is met with ridiculous. And I could never do that, is the sentence that there. So, Wellness Warrior, the only other place where you will hear somebody say, I could never do that, is when you tell them, well, just stop drinking. I could never do it. Stop using. I could never do, like, that's the other place you hear it. Right. But most people could see the possibility of not eating chicken ever again. Right. Most people see this possibility of not eating steak ever again. Yeah, I'd eat something else. But tell them to not eat bread. It's interesting that that's the reaction you get. And I think it's because that addiction is so strong and they don't even know it. So, did you exercise at all when you lost it? Not at all. Not at all. Um, I didn't do anything more than my normal activities. So once in a blue moon. So I did this from April to September. Over the summer, we did our normal. Went one time to the climbing. We went one time to the water park. So just normal stuff. In the summer, because the kids were young, I did my normal, which I was doing all the years before that. If they wanted to go for a bike ride, I got on my bike, we went for a bike ride. So all the things that just normal stuff, but I did not work out in the gym and I did not work out for me. Like I'm working out and I'm trying to get a sweat on to try to lose weight. Did not happen. And part of the reason was because I couldn't. At the very beginning of this process, the reason I started it wasn't to lose weight. It was because my hip was hurting so much that I couldn't really walk. And so I needed to figure this out. And I couldn't sit. Wellness Warrior. Like this thing that I'm doing right now, that I've been doing for the last, how long have I been on here? Hour and 34 minutes. This I couldn't do. So I would be working sitting with clients, and I couldn't do more than, well, at the beginning, I couldn't even do half an hour in a row without being in pain. But eventually, I was able, with very, very long walks, to be able to sit for 2 hours at a time. But that was like, I had to take a huge walk in the morning before I started work, and then a huge walk in the middle of my day. Somehow, walking made it feel better, which is what put me on to the fact that it couldn't possibly be damage to the actual hip. And that's how I did my research and figured out that it sounded like an inflammation problem, which is how I figured out. And then I figured out that sugar causes inflammation, and sugar equals carbohydrates equals every single plant that I had been eating, every single processed food I had been eating, everything. So that's how I got to that. But I didn't do a bit of exercise. Curious myself about resistance training, lost about 60 pounds in the last year and need muscle gain back from lost muscle in past diets and aging. So now my question to exercise, I couldn't care less about going to the gym. So I don't. And I don't even say that I do my activities enough to qualify them as exercise. I do play with the kids and my nieces and nephews. So that I do. When I go to the house, I'll pick up the kids, my like whoever's house where the kid is, I'll pick up the kid and I'll play with the kids. I don't do that enough, even though, to really. Now, since the last year, I've been trying to do a bit more because I want to see how, like, well, just how strong I can actually be. But it's not consistent. Like, even I was rebounding for a while. I was rebounding like every single day. And then I got out of the habit somehow. I can't remember how. And I haven't rebounded in like 2 weeks now, which is unfortunate because I was actually having fun doing that every morning. It was a nice little jolt of energy and whatever. And I'm really trying to put it back in my schedule. So, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rebounder and put it in my way so that I can't get to the bathroom without seeing it. And that'll probably be the trick, because that's part of how I started the first time. So it's to get on that. But I think the other thing that I've done sporadically that I want to do regularly is climbing, which we were doing sporadically just because the kids are in school. And so, the exams and all this kind of stuff. So we didn't have the good timing. But over the summer, I want to be more regular on that. And then obviously the hope is that I can build up some strength there. We went yesterday, and it was the first time we had gone probably in a few weeks, and I just didn't feel strong. I could barely do V3s, which is frustrating because I was doing them and I was getting ready to start V4s, and then I was barely able to do them. So that was annoying to me, and I lost some of my technique. And so having good muscle and being able to just do fun things, that's a good part of what I want to be able to do. And I feel like I do like doing these things with my family, though technically I guess I could go on my own when they're not available. So that's another option I do have. And just go and do it and have fun, and that's it. So Pat did chime in with the name of the restaurant: Korean barbecue, Brazilian barbecue, and they're called churrascaria. I didn't even know that was what they were called. Javier, when you go out to eat, always ask that they fry your food in olive oil or butter or coconut oil. In any case, healthy fat. And if you say you're allergic to vegetable oil, they're definitely going to do it. Okay. Okay. I mean, I guess it's an option. I truly decided to change my journey because I'm type 2 diabetic, have generative disease in my back and neck, and was tired of hurting all the time. I feel like the unfortunate thing is that that's why most people do it. And I wish that, please share this video. Share the video, because I want people to do it before they're in our situation, Jeff. Because you and I started for similar reasons. Our health was failing us, and we needed to do something, and then figured out, oh, wow, I can do something that not only saves my body, but saves my weight as well. And it's frustrating to me that people need to be broken before they're able to get their body back. And I don't want it to be like that. So we need to share this video. The change in diet will reduce inflammation and give your body nutrients to heal. I have spondylolisthesis and spinal stenosis, and change in diet and chiropractor helped me avoid surgery. No pain now. That's terrific, Laura. That's terrific. So many people have things that they're trying to heal. Again, I want us to be healthy, and I want it to be normal to be healthy. Can we aim for that? Like the day that it's normal to be healthy rather than all the craziness that we end up living. It's crazy that the combo of diet and mild exercise and a chiropractor did. Yeah. Hello, Jennifer. How are you doing? I'm joining late to the live. Do you have a video on what causes and how to stop sugar cravings for women over for what causes? I can give you that answer immediately, Jennifer. What causes sugar addiction is eating sugar. And how do you solve it is do you actually stop eating it? And there's two ways to do it. You can do it slowly by cutting down, cutting down, cutting down until you finally take the last bits out. Or you can do it cold turkey, which is what I did, and live through the withdrawal. Enjoyed is a hard word, but like the fact that I lived through the withdrawal because it solidified in my mind that I was actually addicted. And I think I was one of the first people talking about the fact that it was an addiction because people were calling it keto flu, and it was annoying me because those were not flu symptoms. Those were clear addiction symptoms, withdrawal symptoms. And I think if we're not honest with ourselves, what's happening, then we're going to believe that it's something that's foreign to be happening. When you eat large amounts of carbohydrate, your body is going to become resistant, so insulin resistant, but also that those carbohydrates are causing dopamine and serotonin and all kind of feel good hormones to be going off in your brain. And that reward system is what is going to help you to become addicted. Because interestingly enough, when we are overdoing sugar, we don't get the same physical sensations as when we overdo drinking or other substances. Because of that, we don't realize that we're overdoing it, right? It tastes good and all the damage is happening internally. So we're not getting the little brain part that makes you kind of loopy. That happens when you drink or other things. Because of that, and sometimes what you only get is like this happy feeling, which we think is good. Because of that, we don't realize that we lose control of eating these things. I want you to stop and think about, have you ever had the scenario where you don't really want to eat the junk because you know you're trying to lose weight, and yet somehow still you end up buying the thing and eating the thing? Or someone else offers you something and so you were able to resist here, but then you take it here? Yeah, it's like the guy who makes it all the way home and he didn't have his drink and he's like so proud of himself, and then his friend comes over with a case of bears and now he's drinking. We need to understand that we don't control these things. So I do have other videos on my channel. If you go search Road to Health, Stop Food Cravings, for example, you're going to find, I even have a playlist actually, which I probably could link at some point if I have a moment. Can I drop a link maybe I can drop a link in the description. But like the whole point here is that it's not really so much about, it's not about avoiding as much as it is about learning what's the most important and then making sure that you do the things that are going to help you to solve every single time. And so let me just see. I think I have a playlist where I talk about what is it called? Actually, I don't even know what I call. So there's an emotional eating playlist that I can give you, which has some good information. So I'll share this. I hope that's going to be helpful to you. And the one I was actually looking for, though, is one about food addiction. Oh, I have a lot. I have a lot of playlists. So food addiction. Da, 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 da. What is food addiction? I'll share this one too because I think it's a good way for you to. These are two playlists that if you watch them, I have some videos in there. Some of them are older videos, but they have good information about what addiction is, how to manage, and basically what you're trying to accomplish. So Eva Miller, hello. So I am 3 days into sugar withdrawal. I am a migraine sufferer, and this is bringing me to tears. Is there any help? And you go on to say, what can I do for sugar withdrawal? I am okay. Okay. So you're having headaches and nausea. The only thing I could suggest would be to slow it down. So you might be one of those people that you just need to take your sugar intake down step by step. You're still probably going to struggle on that last step. So when you go from, like, let's say you're all the way down to, like, you have 100 grams of carbs in your day, going from 100 to 20 is probably going to be the hardest part because your brain isn't getting that dopamine hit. Now, the truth of the matter is, Eva, if you, and here's the other piece of the puzzle that's so hard. You might think that you took out the sugar, but you didn't. And so that's why you might be still having migraines, is that if you're not consistently under your threshold for insulin to be too high, then what's going to happen is that you're going to be low enough where you get the headache and the nausea and you don't feel great. And then if you're not eating low enough the next day, you get enough where your brain gets fed the sugar and it's like, yay, and it's back to feeling, so the headache goes away. And then you go down and you're back in that problem again. So you actually need to be tracking what you're doing so that you know how much carbohydrate-ish is coming in. And if you react this way, if it was me, what I would have probably done is that I would go even lower than I think I need to be. So let's say, most people start at 20. I would be at 20. I would be at like 15 because I want to make sure I get it, or even do a carnivore day or something. I would make sure 100% I get into that ketogenic state, that there's no sugar that came in. And maybe I would do carnivore for like a day or two. And then I would bring carbs back in if you plan to. But I would keep them under 20 and just never go above 20 and see if I get the headache. But you need to track. And so you have two options, right? You slowly, and then you just suffer that last little bit and then you just don't go back. Or you go full force and you go straight down to 20 or even down to carnivore number, which is none. And then you suffer the headache. And then the next day or whenever the headache goes away. So you wait for the headache to go away before you reintroduce any carbohydrate, but you eat meat and like eggs. I would even avoid dairy because there's carbs in dairy. I would just, like, if I was doing this for that purpose, that's what I would do. And then I would allow it back in and to whatever number that I'm planning to stay under. So you start at 20. But can I also point out just two things? Because I had the headache when I had all the withdrawal symptoms. It was horrible. I had the nausea, I had the shaking, I had the stomach, I had all the withdrawal. And I was starving, even though I was eating I was starving. What I want to point out is I got really nicely regulated at 20 grams of carbs. And then I can't remember how far in, but I noticed I was getting pain again. Now, my pain wasn't a headache. I got my joint pain back. And I realized that I had to actually be under 18. The reason I'm saying this is that going back to like, were you actually in ketosis? We think we know the number because we're told, oh, it's 50, oh, it's 30, oh, it's 20, oh, it's whatever the number. Your body has a number it can do it at. And your number is not necessarily my number. Now, if your number is 32 and you brought yourself down to 20 and it's working, terrific, because your number was actually 32. But if you're like me and your number is 18 and you brought yourself down to 20, at some point you're going to struggle because your body's going to get used to where you are. It's going to get used to what's going on. It's going to, right? And then guess what? Insulin's going to start being out of whack a little bit again and you're going to have problems. So don't be discouraged by that, but see it for what it is. It's your body saying there's more work to do. That's all it is. Hello, Shelly. How are you doing? Type 2 diabetic here. For 7 years, I tried to stick to keto and or carnivore. I can't seem to get past the jumping headlong off the wagon. I feel horrible right now after 2 weeks of failure. So I feel like from my video, what I'm hoping you're going to be able to take away is the need to plan and commit, right? And I think that sometimes we just want to have success and we're not really allowing ourselves to understand that, yes, we can have success, but that consistency that you need to have of saying so I'm consistent because I plan and I commit to my plan. And if they are all working together, if I'm doing all three, I will succeed. I want us all to think about something. Like, do you go to work? If you go to work, that means that every day or 5 days a week, let's say, you get up and you go to this place and you do this activity every day without fail. If you were failing, you'd get fired. Now, some of us don't like that job. Do we do it anyway? Yes, because we committed to do something, we follow through. Some of us start off not good. Do we get better? Yes, because we committed and we plan and we follow the plan. And in the plan, we learn and we improve. And Wellness Warrior, it's not that you can't do this. You absolutely can do it. The problem is that most of us don't do it. The problem is that most of us give ourselves reasons that it's okay not to do it. The problem is that most of us don't acknowledge that we have an addiction that we need to address before we'll be able to do it properly. So I'm encouraging you, look at all the bits and pieces. Down in the description, there's a link to the Wellness Squad. I can post that here too. That one off my head. And I want you to nope, didn't spell it right. There we go. Wellness. I want you to come over to the squad, Shelly. And we need to support each other in doing these actions because that's what that's about too, right? Like the more people support each other, the more people talk through those moments where they're saying, oh my gosh, I want this cookie so bad. And you have somebody over there saying, don't do it. Go for a walk or drink some bubbly water or take a slice of bacon that you have in the fridge and cook it up real quick. Or if you keep some on hand, cook for just those situations. Somebody's going to give you a suggestion that keeps you on track until you don't need the suggestions anymore because you're not even snacking anymore. Right? You said that you lost a lot of weight, at least 80 pounds, but have gained back at least 20. And part of the reason that we gain weight back, Shelly, is because we haven't committed. We are looking at keto or carnivore as a diet rather than the correct way that we should have been eating all along for our body to be healthy. And if you want your body to be healthy, look at it that way. I have decided meat, fish, poultry, eggs, that's what's food for my body. Everything else is for fun. And how often do I have fun when it comes to my body? Very, very rarely. So I know that there's probably going to be a situation where I have a glass of wine again. But have I had one this year even? The last glass of wine I had was on my anniversary, which was back in October. So in this calendar year, I haven't had a glass of wine. Why? Why have one? Right? So I do think that we have the ability to make really good decisions. For me, having one glass of wine once or twice a year, yeah, I'm confident in my body's ability to fix that. But understand what I'm saying. I know I'm giving my body something to fix, which is also part of the reason that I wouldn't do it very often. Right? Why? Why give my body something to fix when I could drink bubbly water? Right? Which I actually love, by the way. I love it so much that I learned how to make it at home, and I make some really nice bubbly water. You have the opportunity to change the way that you're looking at this story, but you actually need to look at the story. Is the stuff you're eating worth the weight that's coming back on? Only you can make that decision, Shell. So this made me hungry. It's my late shift day, so I just fixed 5 scrambled eggs and with plain cottage cheese blended, a hard cheddar on top. You're gonna make everybody else hungry, Jeff. Lots of life stressors, can't seem to deal with them in a healthy manner. The only way to deal with life stressors is to deal with life stressors. So I encourage you to look them directly in the eye and deal with them. That's the only answer. Anything else is causing you more problems, and the life stressor is still there. Laura's given some helpful advice. Thank you, Laura. I see I have pain with walking too, a major unalignment in my spine and hips, I'm not really sure, my whole body really. So unaligned my whole body. Okay. Um yeah, we when we notice that we don't feel well, the number one goal should be, how do I help myself to feel better without medication? I have to add that on there because a lot of people will say, "Oh, my back hurts," and they'll put a cream. And that cream numbs your back, which in the short term might be a good relief. But in the long term, I've just put a chemical in my body to make it numb, and my back pain is still going to be there later because whatever I did, I didn't correct. Now, if I step down the stairs and tweak my ankle and I know exactly how I hurt myself, putting on a cream, again, a temporary thing to help myself out, knowing that I'm going to be careful with my ankle, I'm going to do some exercise, and I'm going to fix this all, then no problem. But just numbing myself to numb myself, I want us to be very cautious of that kind of thing. It's criminal how much we've been lied to about nutrition for decades. Absolutely agree. Hello, Russell. Nice to have you here. Nice to see the thumbs up. Um, Velvet. Oh, so my name is Violet. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be my name. What did you eat and drink today? And the times of your healthy diet. Thank you. Um, so I actually haven't eaten yet or drank anything actually yet. What time is it? Here in Montreal, it's 1:20, and I've been up since 9. So chances are somewhere between now and supper time, I'm going to have a coffee, maybe, depending on the time I get out of this live call. I try not to have coffee after like 4 because then I won't sleep. But if I get out of here before 4, I will probably have a coffee. And I usually have one meal a day. My one meal is usually somewhere around 7 to 9, somewhere in that range, 7 to 9. And I don't worry about eating at night. I know there's a lot of people like, oh my gosh, don't eat late at night. When I was doing standard diet, most of my desserts and junk were happening at night. So I feel like I feel so much better how I am right now. And I eat my meal when I'm hungry and also when it makes sense for my schedule. So because I work because I work and I finish work often at around 8. So if I were to try my best to only eat during the daytime, then chances are that I would have to eat at work and then I wouldn't have a meal that I would like and then that wouldn't be fun. So I was like, I would rather not go to a restaurant during my week. I'd rather cook at home. And if we go to a restaurant, it's going to be on the weekend when I can make sure that I have enough time to go into a restaurant where they have good instructions and they have time to make the meal the way out. So all the things. And so, yeah. So I just eat once a day. I literally couldn't walk more than a few yards without having to bend over due to the alignment in my spine. I walk every day now with no pain. Congratulations. The best part of eating healthy, the best part of your body healing is that you can do normal stuff like walk around, climb stairs, pick up the garbage and take it out by yourself rather than needing somebody to do it for you. Like all the normal things that we just take for granted that other people do that we can do. So that's congratulations. Still have lots to lose, but need more consistency. I guess the no foods do creep in now and then, especially after adding sweetener back in. Sweetener is a problem, Wellness Warriors, because sweetener equals my brain thinks I just ate sugar. My body will behave as if I just ate sugar, even though I didn't eat sugar. And that means later on, I like not even later. When I say later on, I mean like maybe in 20 to 30 minutes, I'm going to be hungry. Please understand that. That's in coffee. That's in all like sweetener is a trap. And it's part of the reason I think that these keto bars and all this stuff get bought so much because you're eating so many of them. They don't taste amazing, first of all. I've tried some of them, but it's that hit of something sweet-ish that gets you back in that chasing mode. So please, I really encourage people like don't fall for it. So sharing the use of Redmond's and Relight electrolyte powders. I don't know if Relight has any sweeteners in it. I would double check on that. Um, my doctors put me on so many medications for my diabetes. I'm working to get off of them, especially glipizide. Hope I said that right. Because it is burning my pancreas up, making insulin. Oh my goodness, I'm so sick of meds. Jeff, I hope that your doctor is working with you on this process because, um, and you should watch the video I did with Georgia Eid and also check out her book because you probably don't need to be on as much medication now that you're eating, if you're eating consistently better. I remember I took the course with Georgia and the time frame that she was telling people to start cutting back on medications was not long, but you need a doctor to help you to do it, to know which ones to start with and how to do it properly. You nailed it. You completely described me. Thank you for these links. I'm so happy that the links are helpful, Jennifer. And let me know in the next Monday when I'm live again, how you're feeling about it. Thank you so much. I love your channel. I will keep track. Perfect. I definitely want you to let me come back and let me know how this is going because I feel like the most important thing that we need to do is talk about what we're doing. One of the things, grandparents say things and they're so smart and they just come up with this stuff. Well, I'm assured that these are things that are passed down from generation to generation. Maybe even started in the Bible or something. I don't know. But my grandmother used to always say, idle hands, right? Devil's playground. And I'll tell you that when you aren't working on something, you're going to be doing something that now you have to question, is this really what I should be doing? And for me, I realized how when I was bored, I used to eat. I look back on it, right? If I had nothing to do, and I remember that starting when I was young. I remember taking my bike to go to the corner store because none of my friends were available, right? And I would just go to the corner store and buy something to eat. So we need to like really understand that it's not that's not something that I should be doing. That's not great for me to do. But when we today, if I'm free, am I giving some of my time so to be in the squad and to type out, hey, today I did this towards my good health? Like we should be doing that. Even like just as an encouragement to other people that like I did this means you could do it too, right? Just tell people I did this towards my good health or ask for a question. I was struggling with this today. Anybody have any suggestions? You're able to go and start conversations over there. Why? Because that's how we communicate, we get to know each other, and best of all, we feel supported and we can support other people. I make these videos to support you guys because supporting you helps me, right? Like every time I answer a question, it solidifies in my brain that that's the answer, right? Like when your kids are young, like let's say in the high school, not high school, the elementary school years, you know your times table so well because every time that kid is doing homework or whatever, and they're trying to figure out like 4 times 6, and you're sitting there thinking it's 24. Dude, it's 24. Come on, you know this is 24, right? You just know. Why? Because you're helping them and it's solidifying in your own mind. Yeah, that's the answer, right? 9 times 9 is 81. What are you thinking? What do you mean you don't know? Like, like, but you're not saying that to the kid, obviously, but in your head, you're like, come on, I know you know it. Why? But then be out in the world and someone asks you, or you quickly need to calculate something and you're just like searching for the numbers, like, wait, 12 times 7 is what again? And you can't remember. Like, why does that happen? Because you doing it. If your kids are not in that stage of school yet, or they're past that stage and now they know the answer, you stop doing it. It's the same thing here. Every time I answer your questions, I'm solidifying in my own brain. Yeah, because that's the right thing to do. And it helps me to actually go out into my everyday and do it. Right? Not that I'm trying to throw anybody under the bus, so I'm not going to say any names, but you know those celebrities that you get caught that they're supposed to be vegan and they're chowing on a steak or whatever. Why does that happen? Because they're not actually doing it, right? Or they're taking days off, or right? If you're doing it, then do it. And if you're doing it, help others do it. That's going to help you to do it even more. Because why? Because you see the value in keeping your body healthy. When I talk to you guys and you're struggling, I see the value of not stepping out, because then my brain would be reacting how your brain is, because your brain isn't different. It's not that it's broken and mine is special. They function in a very similar way because we're both human. And if I were eating those carbs, my brain would be functioning like yours. If you stop eating the carbs, your brain will function like mine. They're similar right now because we're doing different things. But as soon as one of us does what the other one is doing, we're going to get the same result, right? And that's important for us to understand. What makes us different isn't the physical, it's what we actually do, right? That's why I can't argue against people when they say, but everybody's different. I know everybody's different because you're not eating the way that I'm eating. I'm not eating the way that you're eating. I don't have your job and you don't have my job. So your stressors in life are different. Yes, we are all different. But if you took us and for a month fed us exactly the same in the same scenario, we would become so much closer than you could ever imagine, because we're human. I've learned that not hurting and being able to do things is way more fun than a Snickers bar. I couldn't agree more. My bar of choice, I believe, was actually caramel was probably my bar of choice. Um, Thanks, Violet. You are so welcome, Javier. So, Get Fit, hello. Thank you for all the helpful insights to this journey. What do you put in your coffee? At the moment, I put heavy cream and a small amount of butter. I'm decreasing the butter that I'm putting in. I'm trying to, I'm not sure if I'm going to eliminate it all the way, but right now I'm only putting 1 tablespoon, liking that amount. And I might diminish it more. We'll see. But that's what I put in my coffee, heavy cream. And sometimes I drink it black. Sometimes I drink it with just heavy cream. Zero cool. I'm on Journal from diabetes and eating in a calorie deficit, but seems I'm losing and gaining 2 pounds. I've lost 19 pounds, but seems I plateau. hmm Yeah. So, I mean, calorie deficits tend to do that. When you do a calorie restricted diet, what happens is that your body, over the course of the next 6 months while you're restricting, because restriction means I'm not eating enough to meet the needs of my body. So if my body were to need, you know, well, regardless of how much your body needs, let's ignore that for a second because your body will adjust, and that's part of what makes this so difficult to do. 6 months from now, that 1,500 calorie meals day that you were doing, 1,500 calorie day that you're doing, which was putting you, let's say, in a 500 calorie deficit and allowing you to lose the 2 pounds per month that you would have lost. Maybe even more than that. Let's even say you lost 2 pounds per week. After 6 months, well, with 2 pounds a week, how much would that be? That could be like a good, yeah, that could be a good like 18. Let's call it 20 pounds. Yeah, if you no, it's more than that. 6 months. Can't do math. But let's say you lost somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds in 6 months. Let's just keep it like a normal amount because you're on a calorie deficit. So I don't think you're going to lose that much. That would be actually a lot if you lost 30. Let's say so. Anyways, let's say you lost 30 pounds. Just be generous. If you have more than 30 pounds to lose, the only way for you to move forward is to actually now come down in your calorie count again. So now you'd be 1,000 calories per day. Even if you do this another 6 months, your body's going to adjust again because what your body's going to do is it's going to either decrease the amount of energy that you use or force you to go get food. And it's probably going to try to do both. So it's going to force you, it's going to make you hungry as heck, but it's going to it's going to decrease your energy intake. Initially, it won't. So, like that first 2 months, you're going to feel fine. You're going to be hungry though. It's going to try to get you to go get food. But eventually, when your body determines that we must be in some kind of crazy famine or something that we're not eating, your energy output is going to come down. You're going to feel cold. You're going like I have a video about this actually on my channel. I'm trying to remember which one it is. But basically, there's all this stuff that your body's going to slow down. You're going to feel cold. It's not a good time. And you're going to stop losing weight. And so now you're at 1,000 calories and you have to do the same thing again. You're going to come down. So like every time your body calibrates, you're going to get colder and hungrier and blah, 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 and until it can't do it anymore. This is important because at some point you're going to reach your weight that you're trying to get to. If you're lucky, it happened in that first step down. Perfect. If you're not lucky, you have to step down a few more times. The problem is no matter where you achieve the goal, the only way to stay at that weight is to keep eating that amount of calories. And I don't know how you'll do that part because your body's screaming for you to go get food. So being on a diabetic medication and doing a calorie deficit to try to lose weight, I think is a recipe for disaster. I think you're going to end up gaining it back. But let me know if you're able to accomplish that. Um, and if you want to change anything, you're going to need a doctor to help you with the medication anyway. So you need a doctor to help you with this story. Anyone taking medication needs a doctor to help them with their story, because in order to get off the medication, you need to cut back on the medication. You need the doctor to tell you how much, because sometimes these medications have really big negative side effects. Going to a movie theater with no popcorn is a challenge. Pat and I do it all the time. I drink lots of water during the whole movie, but miss the popcorn. No, actually, movie theaters today have flavored water, so you could probably take the one. Actually, ours is nice. They have one that doesn't have anything; it just has flavor, but that's it. But they have bubbly water too. Um, I like bubbly water, so it's like it's just easy for me. But everybody has to make their little decisions, and I've done it with nothing to drink. I've done it with something to drink. Because sometimes we go and like we've just had supper or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm not thirsty. I already had my nice tall glass of bubbly water that I made at home. So I think the reason that we have a harder time with it, um, Laura, is because we think we're supposed to eat popcorn. And so another reason that I have an easier time. So I'm not missing the popcorn, to be quite honest. I'm missing the little chocolate whatever I would have purchased. And the reason that I'm having an easier time with that is because giving up the chocolate, I did that so early in this process that when we went to the movie theater, like it was almost immediate that early in my process, I'm sitting there drinking. Well, at that point, I was still drinking diet soda though. So I was drinking my diet soda and not missing the chocolate just because I wasn't missing it. Right. So I'm pretty sure I was still drinking my diet soda at that point though. And then of course I figured out that the diet soda was just making me hungry, because then I would go home and like want to eat something. Because usually we would go to the theater after we've had supper. So that diet soda, that was part of the reason I was able to figure out that diet soda was causing a little problem for me, because those moments would happen where normally after I have supper, I'm fine till the next day. And then I would have the diet soda at the theater and be like, why am I hungry? And I put it together, luckily. The human body does not discriminate against any sugar. It's all the same for the human body, and it's bad for you. Couldn't agree more. Hello, Mike Jr. Glad you're able to make it. Violet, glad to see you and listen to you. Took the decision to stop eating avocado because they started to make me chase. Total carnivore now going forward. Oh, so you know what? First of all, I guess congrats for noticing that, because avocado never made me chase. I'm happy to say that that wasn't my problem. I stopped eating the avocado because I found out how much oxalate are in them because of the way we harvest them. So I do think that if ever I'm in a country where avocados grow on the tree and I'm able to pick one ripe off the tree, I might have an avocado, but not the way that we harvest them. I'm not going to do that. Hello, just Susie's thoughts. Nice to have you here. Would alternate day fasting help? So I'm not sure how alternate day fasting will impact your medication. Again, you need to talk to a doctor, because you're taking medication, and everything you do now, that medication is expecting a certain amount of food coming in. And right, because it's calibrated for your weight and what they expect you to be eating, regardless of what you are eating. They expect you to eat a certain amount of sugar, and so everything is based on that. So my suggestion to you is you need to talk to your doctor if you want to change the way you're eating at all, even if it's just alternate day fasting. Would you not take the medications on the day that you fast? Number one. Number two, fasting from a standard diet, that is not a fun story. It's doable, but it's not a fun story. So I'm just going to say that to you, because yeah. So I would encourage you, talk to your doctor. If your doctor thinks fasting can work and will explain to you how to do it in a way that you're not risking any health, then you and your doctor can walk through that. Law and economy. Hello. You might get a sausage from a hot dog without bread instead of the popcorn. Oh, that's an interesting option. I never thought of it. Usually, like I said, I go there when I've already eaten. So, but that could be an option for the other people in here. Who was it that, yeah, Laura, that misses popcorn. Yep. I question. I don't feel like eating as it is. I barely eat twice a day. I weigh foods and count calories. Yeah, talk to your doctor. Violet, can you please one day make a video about body dysmorphia? After a huge weight loss, many of us deal with it, and it can be hard. Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you my little story with body dysmorphia. Um, for the longest time, so I lost my weight, the 70, 80 pounds back in September 2018. Between September 2018 and I would say last summer, every time I went shopping to buy clothes, I always took the larger extra large size. Like, just my brain could not calculate. I'm shopping. I know I'm buying clothes because my clothes don't fit me anymore, but I gravitated towards large. And I would go into the waiting room, the dressing room, put it on and be like, "Oh yeah, this is too big." And then I would size down. But the first time that I took the right size was last summer. I was shopping with my daughter and I actually picked up medium. But so I do get it. Like, we have this image of ourselves, but can I just point out the image is, for me, the image was both directions. When I was overweight, the image that I had in my brain of me was at the correct weight. And then when I was at my correct weight, the image didn't change. So picking up large just made sense because that's what I always had to pick up before. But it is also interesting to me how in my mind I look a certain way, and it's not what I ever look at and see in the mirror, right? Because when I see myself in my brain, it's like the healthiest version of me that I ever was in existence, which is before I was 23 years old. Like, that's the image I have of myself in my brain. It's just like so very cool, but so very, like, yeah, interesting. So the conversation, the talk, the all the other stuff that goes around, like what I pick up and touch and whatever, is about thoughts I have about how I look, and like comparatively, I guess would be comparative to me though, like, right? So there's conversations I have about my wardrobe, but there's conversations I have about, like my, like, bathing suits and all these different things, the shoes I wear, all the different things. It's a fun conversation to think about. Yeah, can you connect movies to popcorn more like a habit? Okay. Avocado and cruciferous are okay with meat. They have protein, are not just carbs. So I would encourage you to watch the video that I put out with Sally Norton and the one that came out yesterday with Georgia Eid, talking about the fact that plants have protein in them for their purposes, not ours. And Dr. that they I want to say Dayan or something. I can never remember this guy's name. He's new to me. That's probably why I can never remember his name. I look it up after every video and I'm like, that's his name. But he's like this really older doctor with like really older dude, and he informed us, or informed me, I should say, about the fact that actually the protein that comes from plants is only about 40 to 50% bioavailable to humans. So if you're allowing yourself to eat broccoli So those cruciferous vegetables and avocados, because you think you're getting protein, you're only getting like 40% to 50%. And the toxins and anti-nutrients and negatives that are in those foods far outweigh far outweigh the reason to not eat them than the little bit of protein you might get. Not to mention that some of these plants and seeds especially have things in them that actively stop you from being able to use the minerals that are in them. So we think we're gonna, like, for example, a good example is all the iron and spinach that we're constantly being told, eat iron, eat spinach, eat spinach. If you need iron, eat spinach. The iron in spinach is protected from you being able to use it biologically by the spinach has stuff in there stopping you from being so the it's just crazy, and it's full of oxalate, and it's like, so avocado again, oxalate heavy because of the way we process them. You'll notice that even though I said that there could be a story where I see myself even eating avocado. If I can pull it from the tree myself, I might eat an avocado. I'm saying that because I know that if I eat a avocado, I will give my body the time to turn around and clean up and do all the things. Now, eating that avocado might trigger oxalate dumping, which is a thing, right? So it's not like I'm rushing to do that anytime soon. I'm just pointing out to everyone's who are listening to this that everybody's going to make their decisions. I'm telling you what's the best possible decision from where I'm sitting, from what I understand from the doctors today. I might learn something tomorrow that changes that. And tomorrow I have a different answer for you. At the end of the day, the most important thing for you to understand is that your health is what matters most. So eat in the way that's leading towards you having improved health, not worse. Food companies are encouraging you to eat in ways that is leading to you to have worse health. Why would you want that? Well, they want it because they want your money. Why would you want that? Zero, cool. Thanks for the help. The doctor I have isn't much help. I'll have to find another doctor or a nutritionist to help. I definitely encourage you to reach out to some of these doctors, like online right now, are offering services. So you might want to look up some of the keto carnivore doctors and see if you can't. I know Sean Baker um, offers services. So I would probably look into that and see if they're doing like video services if you're not in the US. I hope that's helpful. So KSO plans. I grab a coffee for the movies. At a pinch, I've done pork crackle or pork rinds, but not for a while. Okay. My cousin had told me when losing weight she used to shrink body. Okay, so to run. Equivalent would be Pilates at home, like stretches and Pilates. Exercise is 20%. So you can exercise and exercise and exercise. If you're eating garbage, your weight will rise. And we've seen lots of examples of that. The Biggest Loser was a TV show all about that. These people were exercising for work because that's what they were every day. They were on that program trying to win that money. That was them working for that money. And how many of them lost a significant amount of weight, first of all, and how many of them kept it off? It's the kept it off that matters. I started this video off by saying yo-yo dieting is proof that everybody can lose weight, because you lose it, you put it back, you lose it, put it back, right? My list is proof that we can do it, right? Look at this list. But you notice that I'll drop a big amount only twice, right? Then the up is always a little bit less than, the up is always a little bit more than the down. Up is more than down, which is why I ended up heavier than when I first started. Do not be fooled by thinking that you can exercise your way out of a story that you're eating your way into. It's just not possible. Your body is going to do with the food what it's supposed to do with the food. And so if store it is the better answer, then it's going to store it. So I'm sorry to disagree with you, law and economy, but I'm gonna end it there. So it looks like I'm at the end of my questions for today. This was a great chat, Wellness Warriors. Wow, we are 2 hours and a half. Love talking to you. Check out the video that's linked below. I want to next Monday, we're gonna have another live stream. Let me know what topics you want me to talk about. Maybe one of them will be the next one. I make these like 2 days before what I'm going to talk about, even the day before. So if you throw me a good idea, it could be the next video's conversation. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to talk to you guys again very soon, next Monday at 11:20. Bye.